In order to avoid the manipulation, frustration, and loss of one's mind due to impulse buying game titles that suck, we here at G1 Toys want to educate the masses, rather than let you make a hasty decision and fall victim to a pretty face. We will analyze each game for you and weed out the wallet drainers before they have a chance to put you in the asylum. We always want to be your personal pit stop for modern gaming, so pull up a chair or a countertop. Take off your straitjacket and get comfy because we have a killer lineup for you today. Everyone, welcome back to G1 Toys PlayStation reviews, and this is our fourth wave, guys. I've been doing a lot of these for you, and you know, it would really be greatly appreciated if you just smack a like on my video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so because I promise to bring you more of these awesome reviews. Let's get into this one right now. This is Assault Suit Lanos by Rising Star Games, and it has a T10 plus rating there at the bottom. This is a really cool presentation. I like the mech warrior there standing on top of the earth. Very sweet. Depicted very nicely. It's a very well organized game. It's rated E10 plus for fantasy violence, language, mild blood, and use of tobacco. I spent a lot of time with this game, probably more than I should have, but it was a lot of fun, and I do recommend it to most people. I think that anybody can pick this up and have a great time. So here we go. I remember now. I remember how it started. I can't remember yesterday. I just remember playing. Target Earth? Yeah, as I reminisce back to the Genesis in the 90s and quote Operation Mindcrime, I'm reminded of a game that has been taken and reimagined. Originally by Rising Star, this title caught my interest like a nun in a foosball tournament. It's a side-scroller with flair, be it protecting envoys, fleets of ships, zero-gravity mechanics, or having the option to block oncoming fire. These things set it aside from most clones of its kind. If you have a hankering for 90s throwback metal slug-like shooters, pick this one up, and don't spare the Charmin. Next up, we're talking about a fantastic game called Battlefield 1. This is the Early Enlister Deluxe Edition with a little bit of a different cover than the original Battlefield 1 cover. And this was rated mature, of course, by DICE and EA. Guys, this was warfare on a scale that I have not seen up to this point. It was way fun, way awesome. It's rated M for blood, strong language, and violence, but man, this game was amazing. It was like war redefined. It really was. I think it's better than the Call of Duty series, at least some of the series that I've played. So let's talk about Battlefield. And with this one, let's be honest, you buy this for the first-person shooter and the multiplayer, which provides a new operations mode that is enhanced for large groups. With the extras they threw in here, you'll be experiencing the best the series has had to offer thus far. And I can't complain too much about the single-player campaign either. But did someone turn God mode on? Because the AI seems a little less than sentient here. On the bright side, attention to detail is displayed with environmental precision, whether it be water droplets as you scour through the wet plains or mud on your weapon from a close encounter with the ground. Also, when the fog rolls in, you are forced to adjust for your field of vision. This game has mastered the art of distraction, and even though there may be some frame rate issues, it's hard to hone in on them when so many visual and audible treats are being served to your senses on a frickin' silver platter. Next up, guys, we bring you a laughable game called Galgun Double Peace. Yes, this is the sequel to a Japan game, and by a developer I always like to pronounce as Pube, but I believe it's pronounced Poeb, but I'm not sure. Anyway, rated mature. As you can see, it doesn't look like it's mature, right? You got some cute little Japanese girls that, you know, just are in some skirts, but nothing too crazy. Let's see why it's rated mature. Sexual themes. Oh, okay. So that's all you're going to be getting there from the mature rating. Every girl wants a piece of you, and I think this kind of is a game that caters to your ego if you have a problem with that. So if you have a problem with your ego, or you just like rail shooters a lot, then I recommend this. Otherwise, it is a complete waste of time. But let's talk about it. It's time to lightly introduce you to the world of creeper anime, where multiple shots from your Pheromone Gun 2000 can reduce females into steaming puddles of conquests. Sequel to the PS3 and Xbox game released only in Japan, this heavy dialogue and next-in-line lover falls short of impressive ideas and gets repetitive faster than you can say Kawasaki. Unless you really like rail shooters that cater to your ego and tease you just long enough to look, I recommend shooting this one to the bottom of your collection and buying more substantial forms of eye candy. And next up, we're talking about Horizon Zero Dawn, which is a completely different game than the last one, and in a very good way. This is by Guerrilla, rated T, And love the artwork on that, guys. Very, very cool, very fantasy oriented. I really like it, guys. Very nice presentation here. Earth is ours and no more, it says there. Rated T for alcohol reference, blood, mild language, mild sexual themes, tobacco references, and violence. So a little bit of everything, you know, what we all need in a fantasy game, right? Wow, guys, impressed by the graphics here. This is a PlayStation exclusive, obviously, and so was the last one, but this one is actually worthy of speaking about. So let's talk about Horizon. Zero Dawn was undeniably above average with its presentation, its story, combat, and attention to graphical detail. When I speak of combat, I refer to our hero's weapon. I don't see much in the way of melee here, but her bow works as intended throughout the game with worthwhile upgrades that pack a wallop. You will surely encounter many various mechanical animals, and learning how to dispatch of them without losing life and limb is joyous to partake in. Our protagonist, Aloy, is particularly brave and reminds us of another ginger gone wild who went by the name of Merida. Remember her? Funny, no one's thought of that yet, but the similarities are striking, aren't they? I guess we should expect a lawsuit from Disney any time now. And yes, next up we have Injustice 2 Steelbook Edition. Very cool, guys. Love the Steelbook Editions, and I don't get them often, but when I do, I am so grateful that I have them. Love the side there's in gold, really cool. And on the back you got Superman. Very, very dark and just well done cover. You can actually feel the emblem on his chest and the emblem on Batman's chest as well. That's the only part that's embossed, but Steelbook cases are always sweet. There's the inside of that for you, so you get to see that. Really cool. Let me actually take this game out so you can see the artwork a little better here. There you go. So it looks like Nightwing in there and Batman and some other people hanging out, Cyborg. So yeah, guys, really, really fun to have those Steelbook editions. Let's talk about Injustice 2. An upgraded theatrical display of DC-laden conflict. For the fact that I own and reviewed the first game on PS3, I can honestly say it was very good. Injustice 2 is better. It really soups up the graphics engine and options, but annoyingly either charges for some of these options or makes you play as long as it takes to complete a small RPG to acquire sufficient source crystals for these upgrades. Despite these setbacks, the bar has been substantially raised with a great multiverse mode, interactive combos, and the desire to progress. I guess the cinematic DC universe has succumbed to certain dark changes these days, which make me question its future, and I see these changes leaking into the game industry here. When will the days return when Superman or Batman don't believe in murder as an option? We may never revert back to those times, but in the meantime, we receive a spectacle for the eyes that is sweet injustice to its origin. And now on a more serious note, we bring you two games that test the boundaries of psychiatry called Limbo and Inside. Yes, this is a double game pack. Yes, this was a downloadable content games. Both of these games were downloadable at one time, and now they have released them in the physical form, and I am so happy to own these guys. This is a really cool collection. It's by Playdead and 505 Games, rated T through M. Limbo is rated T, Inside is rated Mature, and this one is awesome because it comes with a collectible poster and an art card inside. Really cool, guys. These are presented so well and really take you to a dark place in gaming. This here at the bottom is rated T through M for blood and gore and violence only. So I do recommend this game to just about anybody. It's a fun puzzle solver, but it's dark, and I love the way they pulled it off. So it's games like these that force us to admire the artistic side of gaming, the melodramatic tone these games move you in ways like no other can. 2D puzzle platform collections are usually great, but these are the adult-tailored grandpappies of them all. Let's start with Limbo. Atmosphere. There will be no happy little elves here. This game is a pro, however, at making you feel uneasy by a series of unfortunate events. Creatures and traps will impale you, crush you, drown you, or mutilate you. There really isn't anything rewarding other than a barrage of death, if that's your thing, or some moderate puzzle solving, but that's what this game does so well. The fact that the little bits of music are replaced with amazing sound effects adds to the dreariness and makes Limbo an eerie necessity to your collection. Next, we're going to talk about a title called Inside that followed up with flying colors, namely red and gray. For those of us who dream in minimal color within a nightmarish setting, it's the perfect blend of both. I've always liked ambitious indie games that set a mood, and the Playdead team has become a future competitor to the likes of Telltale. We have returned to sweet ambiguity with this amazing follow-up. I've tried my best not to use the word cinematic in this review, but one cannot avoid it when the progression relies so heavily upon countless in-game cutscenes. After playing these creations of madness, I see a two-dimensional side of gaming that feels more like the third. And next we have a little bit of a change of pace game. This one is called Chromia, and this symbol here is significant of Omega. Right there, as you see, it is Chromia Omega, rated E, 10+. Like I said, a nice change of pace. I really appreciated playing a game like this. Took me back to my Star Fox days. Bullet hell blasting enters the next dimension. This one's rated E for fantasy violence, and it's by Rising Star, which is a rare publisher, rare producer. You don't see them often, so it's very cool that they took part in this kind of obscure game. And you know me, I'm all about obscure. So when you're tired of sitting in church and praying for salvation, why not get some diversion and go God hunting instead? That is your mission here, to engage them in combat, and of course find the jump gate fragments to progress. Each level is articulately crafted for a unique 3D flight en route to the next deity, and as chaotic as a digital asteroid field. The first game, entitled just Chromia, was released on Steam in October of 2014 and was met with moderate interest. I can see this game taking a small leap forward in presentation and reminds us of a Star Fox type of gameplay. You'll be wondering how to orient yourself at times because there's no point of reference necessarily to do so, but there really doesn't need to be. Your job is to hunt those wascally deities and put the alphas and omegas to rest. Hey, The Legend of K. Most people are like, The Legend of K? What is that? Right? Has anyone heard of this game besides me? Well, let's talk about it. This one is by Nordic Games, which is kind of obscure developer. You don't see them often. They are on a couple pretty good games, but yeah, rare, definitely. E10+ is the rating there. And yeah, this is not a PlayStation exclusive. There's nothing unique about it other than it was a PS2 game, and that was redone here with better graphics, remastered basically. And wasn't too bad. So we'll talk about it here in just a sec, but it's rated E for fantasy violence, language, and use of alcohol. That's really all you're getting from this game. It's really not too expensive. It's a fighter, so let's just jump right into it. This somewhat forgotten 2005 PS2 title has been remade only to be forgotten again. It seems like no matter who I ask about this game, no one seems to have an intelligent answer regarding having heard of it. That's why I decided to review it, because I have a soft spot for underdogs, or in this case, cats. I didn't expect much plopping down for the evening with this one, and to my surprise, I was at least entertained a little being reminded of Kung Fu Panda and Crash Bandicoot. Now, don't think I'm comparing it to those games, because it's not anywhere as good, but be mindful that it does give some pleasant times. There is one thing I must complain about profusely, and that would be the voice acting. They must have hired 10-year-olds that were related to some of the developers, because I don't know how any of them could have passed an audition. Look for this game on the cheap, and I don't mean the noise a bird makes. Next up, we are talking about a fabulous game called Mad Max. And it's one of those games that you look at and you're thinking, that probably isn't that good. But then you play it and you're like, well, shut my mouth. Because it was actually pretty good. This is by Warner Brothers Games and Avalanche Studios. Rated M for mature. Really cool presentation, actually, with the wasteland there burning in the background. The bridge is on fire. You got some buildings shooting out some fire and smoke. It's pretty cool looking. Very wastelandish. I love that. But yeah, very impressive game. It's rated mature for blood and gore, intense violence, strong language, and drugs. And there's those stickers I hate on my games. I have to get rid of that later, don't I? But hey, Mad Max, guys, let's talk about it. This title should have been titled Glad Max, because I don't know about you, but I would be greatly appreciative of a Quasimodo companion that could fix anything with just a wrench. Not to mention a multi-purpose rifle that pretty much wipes your behind for you. This game is like Upgrade City, Population U, but it's rewarding at the same time. The gameplay is quite smooth for the most part, and winning fights never seem to be handed to you so graciously on a chrome hubcap. Honestly, this open world mission Fury Road universe is quite enjoyable from many angles. It's moderately brutal, but not unbelievable at the same time. Its blend of driving, looting, upgrading, and decent graphics force you into positions that end up being sitting for long periods of time as you experience the splendor of the desert wasteland. Right after that, we have Mafia III with that kind of a rainbow look in the cover, as you see there when the light hits it. Kind of cool, by 2K and Hangar 13. This one's rated mature, of course. It's a Mafia game. 1968, New Bordeaux, Louisiana. This one is rated M4. Ready? Blood and gore, intense violence, nudity, strong language, strong sexual content, and use of drugs. Everything that probably happened, in the Mafia, right? So this game, yeah, it was pretty good, actually. I can't say too many bad things about it, but I'll just talk to you about it and kind of give you my 2 cents here. Most of the ingredients were here to make an incredible Mafia sequel, but they just weren't mixed correctly. It was as if Denny's tried to be fine dining. Repetitive missions, gameplay errors, and a lack of fast traveling were among the list of complaints. On the list of wows, a heavy attention to story, sound, and ambience brought the level of discontentment to a low broil. The game ends up being a grind, but even though it's seasoned with table salt, even Denny's has its moments of greatness. As I so nonchalantly strolled the aisles of GameStop, I caught the glance of this game, in my peripheral vision, and I really was so happy and excited to see that they made Mega Man Legacy Collection number 2 by Capcom, rated E10+. Loved the Mega Man games, and I'm so happy that I get to complete my 10-game set of Mega Man. So yeah, this includes 7, 8, 9, and 10, just where the other ones left off. And I've already reviewed the first series of Mega Man games on this system, so go ahead and check that out if you have a chance. But yeah, so happy to own this finally. You rated E for the cartoon violence, and let's just jump right in. So when I saw this option to complete my Mega Man montage, I was immediately sold, and what I failed to forget was that they were really exploring new territory in the series. Although Part 7 jumped to 16-bit, it was considered a leap backwards by many fans after Mega Man X and X2 had already been released on Super Nintendo, and provided many new action features Part 7 failed to produce. Part 8 jumped yet again to 32-bit graphics, and although pretty, gameplay suffered a bit here. I don't know where Mega Man and Bass got off to for this collection, which was technically Part 8.5, but at least it's referenced in Part 9. After this, a hiatus, not for 2 years, but for 12 years, we waited for Capcom to decide what the next decision in the Blue Man's world would yield. Alas, Mega Man 9 was born. Its birth brought back retro-style gaming with character access to Proto Man. A nice touch for sure, and a nod to Mega Man 2. What was most impressive was Mega Man 10, which kept retro alive but artistically improved upon level design, and gave us Bass as a playable character as well. In conclusion, this is still a very enjoyable set of iconic games, and it does have some DLC after completion of Part 10, so do I love it? Let's just say I like it. And not to get too mushy, I mean, after all, the lack of saves except from determined sections of gameplay was a complete turnoff. Come on, Capcom. I know you have the financial means to bring your fans something truly magnificent, but thanks anyway. And our next game is entitled Neo, and this is by Team Ninja, rated mature. And if you just see a single man on the cover, you'd be wrong, because if you take a closer look, there's a ghost-like figure up here. I thought that was kind of cool art. It was kind of distracts your attention from her, but she's there. So this is a great game, guys. Really a surprise. Defy Death, rated immature for blood and gore and violence. My friends, some of the friends I spoke with, had never heard of this game. I didn't know if they were living under a rock or what, but this game really deserves to be talked about. So this is patience and pacing at its finest. You are a samurai in training, and they never set out to make this journey easy on you. It's a position-based fighter with definite Dark Souls influence. It really sells itself as a new style of action RPG by the way combat evolves. Diversity in enemies keeps the rewards high for the quenching of the most bloodthirsty appetites on PS4. You will want to have an affair with this elegant Team Ninja production, and it won't even tarnish your wedding ring. And now we come to a game that has become as popular as Pokemon. This one's called Overwatch Origins Edition. This is by Blizzard. and rated T. Very cool first-person shooter game, and provides many options. This was a blast. I loved it all the way to the end when I played it. It was rated T for blood, use of tobacco, and violence. The future is now. Are you with us? Let's talk about Overwatch. In Blackjack, 21 is a great hand, and Overwatch is no different with its 21 independently crafted playable characters. If you can imagine any first-person shooters having Comic-Con influences, just take a stroll through any YouTube video that highlights cosplayers, and you're bound to run across an Overwatch homage. Considering gameplay, think Team Fortress with intelligent design, and you'll get the gist here. This one puts layers upon layers of effects, be it incredible sound from your weapons or enemies traipsing toward you. You will always be able to link your environment to your experience. The only lull comes when you realize you've explored every character's moveset, but considering this is around 15 hours in, it hopefully won't make your Overwatch purchase seem like an overlook. And next up, yep, I have it. It's called Shinran Kagura, sorry about that. Estival Versus, and this is a marvelous production, only on PlayStation. It is a PlayStation only exclusive. It is rated mature, and I think you could probably guess why, right? Looking at the back, Bring on the Heat. This is rated mature for partial nudity, sexual themes, strong violence, and strong language. I'm sorry, and some violence. So there you go. There's your production value. This happens to be the summer edition, so I'm going to be showing you everything that comes with that, including this is the box set right here with the nice reflective background. I do like the this edition. It's really cool. As you can see, it's just kind of all fancied up a bit there. So there you go. What comes in this, though, we'll talk about now. First of all, these cards, which I have not opened yet, but are very well presented. They're like playing cards almost, or something, looks like. It's funny, there's more boob than woman there, I think. The next one is the soundtrack right there. Again, more boob than woman, again on that screen. Let's see here what the back looks like. Oh my gosh. 34 tracks on disc 1, 36 tracks on disc 2. So this one's actually jam-packed full of goodies from the game. Good music, that is. Next we have the art book, and I'm sure all of you will be rearing to see what this has inside of it. Yeah, there's one of my favorite characters there, actually. She's pretty cool as well, but I can't pick a favorite, man. This was a tough game to pick a favorite player in. But yeah, they put an overemphasis, I think, on the female anatomy here, haven't they? But I think that's what sells games nowadays, really. So this was especially in Japan, and this is straight out of Japan. So, you know, it was fun, guys. It was one of those games that takes a little bit of patience, but once you get into it, it's actually a pretty well done game. And I did enjoy myself quite a bit, if you know what I mean. So let's talk about this now. Turn up the bounce factor to 10 and gather the family together for this wholesome day at the beach. This had a Dynasty Warriors / Akiba Strip vibe going here, and I'm surprised vibes weren't referenced given the content. The gameplay is completely absurd, and within the fiasco of removing clothes with articulated attacks, there is a moderate level of fun to be had. Dare I say, the game could be just as good without the jab at moral judgment, but since I'm male to the core, I guess I don't mind too much. It is a smooth fighting experience with no lag. However, beating up hotties can become monotonous around an hour in, and dialogue becomes a skippable part for those who just want to see what they'll do next. It really is like a train wreck full of strippers you can't look away from. Next game we're talking about is going to be Shovel Knight. This is by Yacht Club Games, and kind of an obscure game, but very well done for what it is. This is rated E for everyone. Definitely a different game than the last one. Has some mild fantasy violence there at the bottom. But as you can see, that's going to be an 8-bit style gameplay. So it's one of those games that you pick up and you're like, oh, really, another 8-bit game now in this day and age? But it was done very well, and it's definitely worth playing. Shovel Me Timbers. This is the medieval eclectic creation from Yacht Club that redefines the 8-bit genre and mixes some of the best ingredients from that era of side-scrollers, RPGs, and action platformers. The game takes things like themed levels and hurtles them at you like a gravedigger on ecstasy. Not to mention the boss designs, which took me back to the Mega Man days and actually showed up Capcom a bit. Who says the 8-bit era is dead? If it's good, then there's no reason to expect perfect graphics with 60 frames per second when you have access to an indie game that's really a triumph. It's classic Nintendo gold, and it definitely sharpened my shovel. Next, we bring you a game called Seymour X. This one is by THQ Nordic, rated mature, and just happens to match the shade of red that my lights are behind the game. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, not a reason to buy the game, but guys, this was actually a really fun one. It's rated M for fantasy violence, strong language, and sexual themes. However, most of that is all within the dialogue of the game. You know, this game could have done a lot better with a T or an E rating, and they could have cut all that out of it and would have allowed for many more people to play this. It's going to dissuade some parents and, you know, not let their children play because of the mature rated title there, but you know what? It's a great game. You can turn off those the audio in the game, so you actually don't even have to hear it if you don't want to, and you can skip the cutscenes. So it's really a game that should be played by everyone because it's really a lot of fun. In 2012 on Xbox 360, a great game was released that no one knew about. It was this one, and now it's been given the royal treatment, so to speak. For those of you who like English, you'll be happy to find that voice acting is present, as opposed to the Hungarian it was originally released with by the Hungarian developers. Also a co-op feature, which isn't all that exciting, along with graphics jump. So 2 out of 3 isn't bad. This is a side-scrolling shooter on a timer, but not the kind of timer you'd think. It makes you work to stay alive, which may bother your average gamer, but I find it very productive because I never get lazy within a level. Also, you have a super weapon option along with a time manipulation feature. Backgrounds are incredible and distract from gameplay due to sheer beauty. I'll admit, I'm impressed and also half Hungarian, so I feel connected in some ways to this title. This one isn't for everyone, but if you have respect for an aerial shoot-'em-up, strap in and elvese the ride. That was Hungarian. And our next game is called Stern Pinball Arcade. This does have multiple tables on it for play on your PlayStation 4. This is by Alliance Digital Media, rated T there at the bottom, and it's rated T for animated blood, mild violence, suggestive themes, and mild lyrics. You know, pinball games are getting to the point where I think they're becoming a dime a dozen almost, but there are some rarities in there like this one does have, and that's the reason I got this one, because of some of the rare games that you're going to get with this one, including Starship Troopers and Last Action Hero. Also Ghostbusters is on this one, but we'll talk about that in a minute because that kind of was disappointing when I first popped this in the system. So really nice presentation here, but let's just get into it now. Now, I'm no pinball wizard, but I can recognize good pinball compilations when I see them, and to date, the Pinball Arcade is still the best one with the most options and closest feel to the actual experience. This one does provide some rare tables, but comes off as a tease. Seeing Ghostbusters and not being able to play it yet chaps my hide, frankly, and call it nitpicky, but I want a pinball that looks like an arcade-style shiny pinball, and this one looks like a brushed nickel ball. Give me realism or give me death, I say. With the capability of the PS4, this set should have nailed these tables, but I do find the choice of increased color enhancement distracting from the original look of these tables. Sometimes less is more. After a quick playthrough some of these tables that are new to consoles, and I do mean quick, I wasn't impressed enough to want a return play in the near future. The novelty, however, of being able to play rare movie tables like Starship Troopers or Last Action Hero was a bit nostalgic. AC/DC ends up taking the spot for best table available, but I wonder why they didn't use the track Shoot to Thrill as a theme song. And nearing the end of our PS4 wave wrap-up, we have a game that has really surprised and impressed me called Watch Dogs 2. This one is rated mature, of course, by Ubisoft, and of course IB Hard as the opposite of that. Then we have Hack Everything. That is very true. We have it rated M for blood, intense violence, nudity, sexual themes, strong language, and use of drugs. You know, not even as intense as like maybe the Mafia games, but still has all those things in it. However, doesn't matter because this game was so much fun and worth the time that you can put into it, if you have that kind of time, that is. So Watch Dogs 2, this is a prime example of expansion at its finest. From gang affiliates to government officials, you'll be hacking everything as advertised, not to mention taking some pretty fly selfies in the Bay Area. I thought it noteworthy to mention that as you traverse San Francisco, it's like having the population of St. George, Utah move to California, because the streets are vacant for the most part. which gives the freedom of mobility. It's a step in the right direction, and although your cast is a bit quirky, they give DedSec a good reputation as the hacking gang gone wild. And then to finish up our PlayStation reviews today, we bring you a game that is going out with a bang here. This is Wipeout Omega Collection, rated E 10+, only on PlayStation. It's an exclusive, rated E for fantasy violence, and does come with 3 separate amazing racing games. Wow, this was such an amazing compilation that they came out with. So glad that they did. So glad that I don't have to try to collect all the Wipeouts in the PAL version on the PS3, right? So this is a great little option that we have as PS4 gamers here. So talking about Wipeout, strap in for the best hover car racing games available with 26 tracks and 46 ships. What a way to end our PS4 reviews with 3 remastered quality racers, including Wipeout Fury, Wipeout HD, and my personal favorite, Wipeout 2048. I like how the games mix up racing with battle and survival, all the while keeping these modes fluid the whole time. I also made it through the whole game without humming the Safari song from 1963 at all. So act without delay on getting this near flawless set, because in this series of games, the turtle never wins the race. As easily as we began, we now come to a close, but we emerge victorious from the oppression of impulse buying. Sometimes one must go through the asylum to recognize a change needed to occur in gaming habits. That's why we spend our time so you don't have to waste yours. Thanks again for joining us, and don't forget, try not to be the next victim of monkey see, monkey buy. G1 Toys signing out.